Welcome to Turning Moments into Movements, where each week we explore simple but powerful wellbeing tips to help you live a balanced and fulfilling life. My name's Leanne Ross, your host and the founder and coach of my business, Happyluia, and I will be taking you through today's 15 minutes of insight and inspiration. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. This week's episode is all about why your goals are not coming to fruition. And the reason why I wanted to do this specific episode is because this is something that I have struggled with on and off for probably most of my adult life, and it's certainly something that some of my clients have experienced struggles with. But I feel like I have finally cracked the code on why goals that you're setting are not working, why they're not coming to fruition. So I wanted to do a podcast episode on it because what you find is if you are regularly setting goals and not achieving them, it can feel really debilitating, and it can feel really difficult to continue to pursue that goals when ultimately they're not working. So I wanted to drop 5 tips around what you may want to reflect on to really support that shift and really work your way to setting your stage to success. So I'm super excited to share these 5 tips because having dived into them over the last, couple of years of my life, they have honestly made such a difference. So the first one is, a lot of people use frameworks for goals, and I really encourage that. It can be really important. So the first one is actually going to be based on the SMART framework that a lot of people, especially in workplaces, use when they are goal setting and goal achieving. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So really putting your goal into that framework. However, if you're using that framework and like me, it just wasn't working for you, what can you change to make it more effective? And this is why I wanted to specifically talk about SMART goals. When we are making goals SMART, absolutely it can be effective, because if we're being specific with the goals that we want to achieve, if we're making sure it's an achievable goal, if we're being realistic, if we've got a measure, to measure that goal that we're looking to progress in, if we've got a timescale to keep, fabulous. But what happens when that framework doesn't work? What do we do then? Do we just continue in the hope that it does someday? Or do we just completely throw the goal away and just accept that it's not something that's going to work? None. What I want you to do is make your SMART goal smarter. And this is something that I coach about, and I have actually a PDF that I would love to share with you all. So I will make sure that I put details with that in the show notes. But make your goal smarter. Add the ER at the end of SMART. And that stands for evaluate. So evaluate how it's going. Evaluate if it's specific enough. Evaluate what's working and what's not. Evaluate if this goal is actually achievable or if you need to break it down even further. Hindsight's a really great thing to have when we are goal setting and goal achieving. And sometimes we may be needed to change things within that smarter framework. And there's no shame in that. Evaluating is so powerful. That's what really makes goals work as efficiently as possible. The next one would be review. So review what went well and what hasn't gone so well. And then you can learn from, maybe not your mistakes, but learn from your experiences. So you can truly start to make a difference when you are setting future goals. So that would be my first one, turning SMART goals into smarter goals. So evaluating and reviewing that whole process to make sure that you are giving yourself the best chance possible to succeed. The next one, and this really falls into the theme of my whole podcast of turning moments into movements, making, small habits into bigger changes. A lot of people start too big. I'll give you an example. Probably about a decade now actually, probably about 10 years ago, I was in a pretty dark place in my life, and I woke up one day and I was like, I'm going to make a change. So I set myself these lists of goals of everything I was going to do to get there, to get to that almost that happiness, that happy tier that I was really desperate to reach. And I was really motivated, I was really driven, I had all my goals listed out, and I failed on all of them. And the reason why was, looking back, holy hell, the amount of stuff I was expecting for me to succeed within week 1 was just unreal. I can't even remember half of them now, but it was like, go to the gym like 5 times a week for an hour, do like a 30-minute meditation every morning, do journaling at this point, go out with my friends X amount of times a week, study hard to make sure that I'm doing well at uni, drink X amount of water, make sure that I'm eating well, make sure that I'm not drinking a huge amount of alcohol, but make sure that I'm still going out with my friends at the weekend, make sure that I am wearing the best outfit so I feel really good in myself. Like, I feel frigging exhausted even talking about this, and I'm sure you're probably listening to this podcast being like, oh my God, shut up. Like, how overwhelming was that list? And some people do that, and I totally get why people want to make changes fast, but sometimes starting out with really big goals can just feel too overwhelming. So what I would really encourage you to do is break them down into micro goals or micro habits. So small goals that will really lead to success. So an example of this, it could be, for example, say you want to get a little bit more fit, a little bit more kind of living a healthier lifestyle. Rather than having like 10 goals that you want to achieve that week, think of one thing that you feel you'll manage to do. So it could be, okay, I'm going to drink an extra glass of water before my evening meal. Or it could be, okay, I'm going to join a gym, and that's all I'm going to do this week. I'm going to join a gym, and if I go once, then that's a bonus. And then the second week, okay, I'm going to go 1 day a week. And then the third week, okay, I'm going to go 3 times a week. I'm going to push myself a little bit more. But if you go so big with these goals, it's almost inevitable that you're going to fail. So start off small and build up the momentum. That's why this is like my tagline, a huge part of my branding, turning moments into movements. It's those little changes that are really gonna build that bigger picture. And like, imagine a jigsaw puzzle, sorry. So we're just looking at those jigsaw pieces that fit in with the jigsaw puzzle. And if you keep going with that, you will end up with such a beautiful picture at the end of it. And just visualize that, for a second, really focusing on how to use those smaller pieces that will ultimately lead to much bigger changes. So that's a really personal favorite one of mine. The next one is accountability. If you don't have someone that holds you accountable for your goals, you can easily get away with not doing them. I write out 3 goals every single week, and my coach gets in touch to basically check that I've done them. And from a place of compassion, she will hold me accountable if I don't do them. So if you can find someone that can hold you accountable, to achieve the goals that you're looking to make happen, then do that. there's so much research to suggest that having an accountability partner or an accountability buddy or person in your life will be really, really effective, because there's just that gentle amount of pressure to really support you to excel with that goals that you're looking to succeed in. The fourth one is when people don't acknowledge the small progress that they're making. And this is kind of going to the second point of just going so big. What we want to do is acknowledging every little succession, every little mark of progress. And this all ties in together. When you're reviewing your smarter goals, you're going to be picking up on those little things that happened that went well. And this is a really, really important step, because if we don't mark the small progress, that's the bit that leads up to the bigger changes. That's the thing that keeps us motivated when we're getting those small wins. And if we don't acknowledge that, then that can be really, really challenging to continue. It can still feel, we can feel quite depleted if we don't acknowledge all of the progress that we've made. And it's something that I do actually with all my clients. We do celebration champagne moments. So at the sort of either the start or the end, depending on the vibes of the call, we will talk about, what went well for you this week, or what went well for you this year or this day, whatever focus you want to really hone in on. What has gone well for you? And acknowledging your small wins can also enhance feelings of gratitude. And there's so much on gratitude I can talk about. I'll definitely dedicate a whole episode to gratitudes. But if you increase gratitude in your life, you will really support your mental health. You will increase your motivation. You will be able to kind of acknowledge that progress that you're making. So it's really, really imperative when we're goal setting and goal achieving that we are marking the progress that we have already made since, setting that goal. And it can look differently for everyone. I remember when basically I was really struggling with my mental health, and I wrote a progress list every single night before I went to bed. And some of these were just almost kind of what people would typically do in a day. But for me, because my mental health was so poor and in such a negative place, the difference it made having a list of things that I'd achieved that day, honestly, actually makes me feel emotional, because I remember just really feeling so proud of myself after those days, when those days were the darkest. And I would have things like, I got up and had a shower today. I got up and made myself a really nice cup of coffee. I went for a 5-minute walk around the block. I tidied a small area in the house. Those were monumental successes for me during those darker days. And I think it's so important that we really acknowledge those amazing moments, irrespective of where we're at, in life. Really ensuring that you are achieving or marking your achievements and really celebrating them as much as possible. Oh, yeah. Deep breath now. Oh. The final one is motivation. A lot of people, when they're setting goals, are focusing on the what. What do I want? You'll maybe focus on how do I achieve it? You'll maybe focus on where am I going to do this? You'll maybe focus on when am I going to do this by? All very important, focusing on the what, where, when, who and how. A lot of people don't focus on their why. Focusing on your why is such a powerful way to excel your goals, and I mean blast them, because that's where the motivation comes from. So if you think, just quickly, because we've got about a minute left, if you think of one goal that you really want to achieve, why do you want to achieve that? What will change in your life when you succeed with this goal? Why is it so important to you? Why is it that you have decided to prioritize this goal over everything else? And really taking a moment here to reflect, like, what's going to change in my life? Like, why is this goal so prevalent? And I would really encourage you to write 20 reasons why you want to achieve this specific goal that's just popped in your head. And what you find is, like, you'll be able to rattle out the first 5. Focusing on 20 will really increase that motivation, because you will literally have a page of reasons why you really want to succeed. And you'll go deep. If you're thinking, oh gosh, I've still got another 7, you'll end up going deeper and diving into layers that, that really give you that insight around why the goal that you've chosen is really, really important for you. So to recap, 5 reasons why your goals are not coming to fruition yet. Make them smarter, so adding evaluating and reviewing at the end of SMART goal framework, and I will put information on my free PDF there for you to look at. 2, you're maybe going too big, so focusing on smaller habits. 3, that accountability, so having someone to stay accountable to, whether it's a friend, a family member, or a coach like myself, really making sure that you have those people in place. 4th, acknowledging your small wins, so having those champagne moments and really focusing on how much progress you have already made. And then the 5th one, focusing on your why, really increasing that motivation as much as possible. Thank you so much for listening. I can't wait to speak to you all next week. Take care. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Turning Moments into Movements. Why not check out coaching opportunities with me so you can really begin to enhance your moments into huge movements and begin to live the life you never thought possible. Details are in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, leave a review and share this episode. Remember to also follow me on social media platforms through my handle Happyluya, where you will receive additional daily content. And finally, make sure you join us next week for more tips on how you can turn your small moments into life-changing movements.